You are now listening to the Project Kuwait. Where we stop at nothing to bring you the right facts on health, fitness, and psychology. Featuring some of the world's most experienced professionals. So you can learn, live, and live. With your hosts, Meg, Dr. D, and Mehdi.
I think I quit my job a bit too early. Just because I didn't realize how long it took to sort visas out and get blood tests. And I didn't actually realize that I'd have to take as many medical tests as I did. Nothing like bad or anything, just a bit meh. Like, my job was fine. The one quite big difference about I'm going to say like imaging, like photography and video industry over in the UK is it's very saturated. So you have like thousands and thousands of people kind of competing for the same jobs. There are only a certain handful of like advertising studios or content agencies. My brother went to university with somebody who was already out here. It's Hannah. She approached my brother to see if he'd like to come and do this videography job. My brother didn't have the experience, but he put my name forward, and it was literally just a case of communicating on Facebook for a few months. So someone came out to see me. I had like a little kind of audition shoot, and after like the night of that, they were like, "Yeah, you have the job. When can you start?"
All this and more in today's episode.
So I'm going to let you do a little intro of who you are and what you're doing out in Kuwait.
Okay. Hi, world. My name is Matt Mulvey, and I am photographer and videographer. The reason I'm in Kuwait is because I am working for a fitness startup, which is how you and I, Meg, met. Working on that. And yeah, we're here, we're building it from nothing. It's going super well. And yeah, I'm enjoying a very exciting, fulfilling time out here in Kuwait. Yes.
Awesome. Where did you come from?
I came from Leeds, UK, which is the north of England, from super, super cold to like 60 plus degrees in the shade.
Right. Super hot and dry. So how long have you been in Kuwait now?
Oof. In June, I will have finished my second year.
Okay.
So kind of a Kuwaiti
crazy.
baby compared to yourself.
Yeah.
Because you were here for how long?
5.5 years.
Oof. Yeah.
Oof. I love the oof thing. That is definitely something I have adopted from Kuwait. I don't know if that's something you had already or...
No, I didn't have it already. I've started doing it. Oof all the time. And also I end sentences with, you know?
Yep. Oh my gosh, I do that all the time. And I think that comes from, for me, I think it came from coaching and leading workshops because I knew that English wasn't the first language for many of the people. So I'm constantly asking for clarification. And, is kind of one of those things that comes out or okay, or I'm constantly just asking
kind of
for clarification. Even now that I'm back in the States and I'm around. Yeah. Even though now I'm around people who speak English as a first language, I'm still like, do you guys understand me?
Yes. But yeah, it's almost like a new, what's the word? Like Americans, I just did it. So I can't accuse Americans of just doing it as well. Like using the word like to kind of bridge gaps in sentences.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it's almost like an unconscious tick that like tops off my sentences and like links them to other.
Yeah. It's the Yanni, right?
Yeah,
I'm probably not
Yanni.
saying it right, but it's something like that. Yeah.
Did you ever pick Yanni up?
I didn't pick that one up, but actually in my head sometimes, like when I'm thinking about what I want to say and there's a pause, sometimes it pops up in my head. I very rarely verbalize it. So how is, I guess, like, have you picked up any Arabic since you've been there in your 2 years, or how do you feel about using Arabic in Kuwait?
I'm disappointed with the amount that the amount of usable Arabic that I've picked up. I feel like I maybe should have been making a bit more of an effort, but the effort that seems so small to me, everyone around me seems to like really appreciate.
Right.
Yeah. So I kind of know, I wouldn't call myself conversational, but I can use enough to communicate with most people to achieve the aim of whatever situation I'm in, if that makes sense. Yeah.
No, that totally makes sense. That's the same. I mean, I was there for 5.5 years. I had big goals of learning Arabic while I was there.
Same.
And then when I walked away, I have a better ear for it than I can speak it.
How weird is that? How weird is that?
And
Like,
that is,
I don't speak Arabic at all, but I can tell what people are talking about.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And that's right. I think the sounds are just so damn hard to make. I remember I had a couple of girls from the gym who really wanted to teach me the alphabet. And when it came to some of the letters, they were like, you literally have to stick like a finger down your throat to feel the muscle that you're trying to work. Yeah. I'm like, this just doesn't sound great.
Definitely. It's just it's like my mouth doesn't do that.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
We have different mouths.
Yeah. But the little bit that I did know and the little bit that I still have with me, and when I'm around people that speak Arabic, I find that it is very appreciated. What a little effort, you can make to just try to connect with that person, I think, and just acknowledge like, okay, I get it. You come from a different place than I do. You're a different person. And just acknowledge that and try to make an effort, I think, is really important. So yeah.
I mean, that's the positive side of it, but I think the negative side as well.
It's really easy to get away with English.
It's easy to get away with English. And also sometimes if you're in a situation where the other person has no knowledge of English whatsoever and they're unable to communicate with you in anything but Arabic, they will continue to speak to you in Arabic because if it's going to make any difference. And it's like, oh shit, we do that as well.
Right.
We repeat in English just louder. So it kind of makes you appreciate people who come to English speaking countries without speaking a lot of the language as well. It mirrors that experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it is. English does become kind of the common language there because you have the Indians, the Filipinos, and that kind of becomes the common language, between us all, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have it's kind of a reference point, isn't it? Because, it comes from like movies and TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy to hear so much English around.
Yeah.
Englishified everything is. No matter where you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are you driving in Kuwait or?
I do not drive. I don't know how to drive.
Oh,
yeah, I ain't learning here either.
That's probably the worst place to learn how to drive.
That the concept terrifies me. I'm not going to die.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. I was saying that was the biggest thing that was a source of anxiety for me was driving out there and the signs and using like Google navigation and
yes.
Siri would try to read in Arabic and it was like, I don't even know what that looks like or what that means. Very, very stressful. Okay, so you came out how did you get connected to come out for the startup? What was your connection to Kuwait or how did they come across you to bring you out?
My brother went to university with somebody who was already out here. It's Hannah. She approached my brother to see if he'd like to come and do this videography job. My brother didn't have the experience, but he put my name forward. And it was literally just a case of communicating on Facebook for a few months. So someone came out to see me. I had like a little kind of audition shoot. And after, like the night of that, they were like, yeah, you have the job. When can
was that start? Hannah who came out then or?
No, Nazar came out to see me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What did you have to do for like a practice shoot?
So we booked a studio at Yorkshire Television and it was still quite early on in the process. Like I'd say like the videography part was a very small factor in what we were actually doing in the I'm going to call it like the courting phase when like I was new, I didn't know them, they didn't know me, and we were kind of chatting. So a small part of it, I think the aim of that exercise was just to see whether I had the skills that I said I did. The main brunt of what we were doing was almost organizing how the shoots were going to be, what the content would look like. So yeah, we booked that studio out. And we just tried a few different things. I delivered to them what I thought would be the best. I mean, I don't know if any of the listeners have used the app, but it's the movements are recorded in silence and then the audio is put out afterwards.
And just to let people know, it's the Hot Life app.
That's what we're referring to.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that yet.
Yeah.
So we would like to hear a little bit about your audition experience and how you got out to Kuwait.
Oh, okay. So yeah, as I said, I was approached Facebook by, at that time, a complete stranger who was just a friend of a family member. Yes, that led on to an audition shoot, which was basically, it's for a fitness app. So it is clear video instruction for people who want to train online. So yeah, it was kind of a practice run. They wanted to check that I had the skills that I said I had. It was important for me to meet somebody in person before making the decision to, fly all this way.
Right.
We just did a trial shoot. Everything went fantastically. And yeah, straight after the shoot, I was offered the job. I said yes without hesitation. After the shoot, I really wanted to show Nazar around Leeds a little bit. But because of train times, and I think there was a bit of a rush for him to catch his train, so he didn't miss his flight. I ended up just taking him to a Pret-a-Manger in the train station.
Oh, funny.
So that was Nazar's experience of Leeds.
Awesome. I was just going to say, what was going on in your life before this opportunity came up because you said without hesitation, you said yes. So I'm just curious, what was the work environment or maybe even like personal life or things that were going on that just made it so easy for you to, without hesitation, say, yes, I'll go to Kuwait?
Sure. Nothing like bad or anything, just a bit meh. Like my job was fine. The one quite big difference about I'm going to say like imaging, like photography and video industry over in the UK is it's very saturated. So you have like thousands and thousands of people kind of competing for the same jobs. There are only a certain handful of like advertising studios or content agencies there. So the job you kind of end up in, like I was not unhappy in my job at all. I was working as a retoucher in a large photography studio, and I had a client. It was a budget sofa company, and I was just getting rid of dust particles from from sofas and making them look all nice for the advertising. So yeah, it wasn't like I wasn't having a negative experience, but I knew that I wanted something a bit more adventurous.
Right, that you had other skills that you could put to use. Yeah,
definitely. And to be honest, like I'm super, super thankful for the kind of I'm going to call it like tuition that I got from my seniors there. But yeah, a lot of the time it was, oh, how do I do this? They'd go away and kind of Google it. And I was like, well, shit, I can do that. So it kind of gave me a bit of confidence to, kind of make it up as I go.
I think that's so important for people to realize, because we can get down on ourselves of, oh, I don't have, the credential, the certification, the experience. We tell ourselves all the time that we don't have enough experience. But for myself as well, moving out to Kuwait, I was being asked to do international business, and that isn't anything I held a degree or any experience in. But exactly that, if you know how to use Google and you know how to use your resources, I mean, if you just have that, resourcefulness is something that you value, and, curiosity, I think that you can survive pretty much in any scenario.
Oh, 100%. And I do think that is a big part of being an expat. There's that natural resourcefulness that I think if you don't have, you're going to develop pretty fucking soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because situations will be thrown at you and you just kind of have to make it work, because the alternative, well, there isn't really an alternative, like we're all intelligent human beings. We know how to not die. We know how to navigate most situations, even though we haven't maybe encountered them before. So yeah,
there's some intuition that you get body sensations. You get a little something in you that gives you an alert when something is a little off. And some people are a little more in tune with that than others. That's why they say like common sense ain't so common. But I think being in a place outside of your home conveniences and comfort, it definitely puts you a little bit more in touch with some of those things.
100%, because you almost become an island.
Right.
You're by yourself. You kind of have to almost force yourself into like this state of self-reliance that, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have you just have to kind of try and take control of situations, but at the same time, almost roll with it. And it's like a bit of a dichotomy. Like can we start this bit again?
No, I say like things move a little bit slower, I think, compared to the pace of life that you and I were probably used to before getting there.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask about the process of getting out there from that moment that you accepted the job. How long did it take to actually get you out there?
I think I quit my job a bit too early just because I didn't realize how long it took to sort visas out and get blood tests. And I didn't actually realize that I'd have to take as many medical tests as I did. But yeah, that was just a large portion of the moving process. Just yeah, that was like a big section of deciding to come out here. It was just making sure all the paperwork was right and speaking to the embassy, and maybe some instructions could have been a little bit clearer. But
and that's just part of, I think.
There's no Kuwait embassy in the north of England, so I had to go down to London. And the day that I'd chosen to go to the Kuwait embassy in London, it was actually Eid.
Oh, I think I remember you telling me this.
Yeah. I had my whole life in a suitcase. I got to the steps of that place, and they were like, "There's no one here. It's Eid. Come back again after." So I was like,
"Oh no."
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. But that is, exactly that experience. And just, I think being patient is something that is a skill that comes up from a lot of expats, of that they feel was really developed and fine-tuned after. I mean, it can be for anybody living outside of their home country, but especially in Kuwait, I think patience is something that you learn.
Definitely. And what was your process quite similar, or?
My process was, I had met with Diego and Steph. They were the two that were getting ready to head out there. So I met with them in July out in California. So they hadn't left for Kuwait yet, but it was in the plans that they were going. Mm-hmm. And they had wanted me out there. They had said in October they were opening a women's facility, and they wanted me out there for that. And then, so we stayed in touch like every month after that. Like, I pretty much harassed them every month, and I was like, "Hey, what's up with the plans? Like, when am I coming out? What do I need to do?" Kind of a thing. And
it sounds like you kind of had a similar experience to me, in that, like, when this job came up, like, it was almost like, it was calling to me. I was like, right, I don't think I've ever put not as much effort, but I haven't like driven towards something. Like, I was like, okay, this is an opportunity. I'm going to grab it. Like, and it was like the focus of my entire life up until I got the call that I was actually going to be coming. I don't know. Something was drawing me here 100%.
Oh, totally. So like the conversation was out there, and it was me, emailing every month, and things are a little delayed with the facility, just not quite ready yet, but like still staying in touch and still staying in contact on it. And I started to get to the point where I was really nervous to like tell people that I was considering it, or that it was an option that was out there, because I kind of had this worry in the back of my head of like, well, what if it doesn't come through? What if, because there was that little delay, and I was like, I don't want to tell people that I'm moving all the way over there, and then it doesn't happen, which is just a weird thing anyway. I think that just humans that we have, of when we have a big goal in mind or something, that we really want, it could be like a new relationship or a big goal or a job or something like this, and you are excited about it. You are scared to put it out there, because then you're subject to that accountability of someone being like, "Oh, what happened with that big thing you were going after?"
I experienced that as well.
Yeah.
It's like you want to avoid embarrassment.
Right. Which is just silly. But I started to get nervous. So it was already now, it was like the end of the year, and it was October, and they weren't ready yet. And I'm like, okay. And so, but knowing that I really needed a career shift, I had met someone else who's doing this food prep business, and her and I had clicked pretty quick in the beginning. And she had asked me if I wanted to basically tour around the States and help her build up her food prep company. And
so not only did you have that, you had a choice between as well.
Right. So then I started thinking about this, and I told her, I was like, the job that I had at the time was with the hospital. I had incredible benefits. I had a really great job, but I was just not very satisfied in it at the moment. And so I explained to her, like, this is what I would need to make. This is what I need to be, guaranteed. And then I also put it out there, and I said, listen, I've had this Kuwait thing, kind of on the back burner for the last, half a year. And as soon as that does come up, if and when that does come up, like, I will go.
Well, yeah,
I will leave.
It's on the back burner for half a year. Like, that's a lot of investment. Right. You're invested in it already.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was cool with that. And I put in my 2 weeks notice I gave them a month notice at my job, And I remember I was typing up my letter and I was getting ready to hand it. And I went and printed it out and I came back to my desk and I had an email from Steph that said, can you come out the next month? We're ready for you.
Okay.
So I never even got to do the food prep business, but I had, I was prepared to leave my job anyway and take that leap. And then it just worked out perfectly at that time. So I was putting my month notice in, and instead of getting ready to work for the food prep business, I started packing up my life and condensing it down to 3 suitcases and getting myself out to Kuwait.
What was that like?
It was exciting. Everybody around me was excited, except for my dad at first.
Yeah.
His response wasn't so great, but my brother had been in Kuwait with the military.
So it was kind of on their radar.
Right. And so he was fine with it, and he had kind of calmed, my dad down at least. And then I had a teammate in college who was from Kuwait. It's actually Mishari. He owns the elite swim team in Kuwait.
Right.
And so I had a good connection there and felt safe. And and it didn't really worry me. And I always kind of wondered about that by myself. I'm like, what's wrong with me that I'm not more freaked out about this or anything?
I was the same. Like with my parents, like you say the Middle East to your parents and they're like, ugh. Yeah. There's that instant like alarm bell that goes off. But for me, like it was just, I honestly did minimal research about Kuwait before I came. It was just like, I'm being offered an adventure by life. I'm just going to take it. I don't care if it's, I just felt pulled here. So.
Right. Exactly. And since you've been there, what kind of an impact do you think your experience has had on the people back home who maybe have that initial reaction to the Middle East or something? What do you think you've been able to share with them or show them?
Well, I've actually been super lucky in that I've been able to bring all of them out here to come and stay with me.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it was just a super beautiful experience. Just, I don't know, almost like, when you move into a new house and you kind of want to show everybody like how what you've done with the place and all that.
Right.
Like, it's just like, oh, this is where I live now. And it's pretty cool. And it also like, I think it's sometimes when you live somewhere, you almost become complacent, and then when someone comes to visit you, you experience it through their eyes.
Yeah, you get that tourist like mindset back about it, and
100%,
it's really cool.
And you're like, oh crap, I'm super lucky.
Yeah. I know when I first was my first year out there, I was always the person kind of in charge of showing around people who were coming out to teach workshops or any
you were the
coach.
buddy.
Yeah, any new coach or someone that arrived, I'd take them out. And I loved that because I got to experience so many different things about Kuwait, but you get to be that little tourist. We tend to, when things are so close or constantly around us, you have that mindset of, well, I'll do that anytime, it's so close. And then after, you're there for 2 or 3 years and you haven't experienced quite a few things around you because you've just kind of had that mindset. So I always appreciated having someone new to come visit, because then it was your excuse to kind of go and be a little tourist in your hometown.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Because I think as well, like you speak to so many people, like we're all here to work at the end of the day.
Right.
And when you are in your work routine, you have your apartment, Bakala, Kareem which is the taxi firm, you have the Kareem to your workplace, the coffee shops and stuff around your workplace, and you go home, maybe go to the co-op and go home, and people kind of get trapped in they almost live in that little box, and they forget that there's so much else to explore. So yeah, when you do get someone visiting you or someone new arrives and you have to show them around, then you kind of are motivated to find cool things for them to do, and you get to do it too.
Well, I also think like social life, I mean, just talking about that, like, yes, most people are out there to work. I mean, 2/3 of the population in Kuwait are expats. So people living outside of their home country, and they're there specifically to work. And Kuwait itself, and the Kuwaiti population is very family oriented. So I think taking social life is something that takes a lot more effort, because everyone is business focused while they're there, or work focused. They're kind of just looking forward to the next trip that they can take that's outside of Kuwait. But inside Kuwait, it does take quite a bit of effort to make some connections and make some new friends. So is there anything, I guess, that you've found particularly helpful with that?
Oh, I agree completely. Like, I don't know. I think when you're back home, obviously you've had friendships for years and years and years, and they're kind of always there. When you relocate and you have to make new friends, because we are all here working and very busy, like you can meet people and really vibe with them. If you don't like a conscious effort. Sorry, I was trying to find a word.
Yeah, you're fine.
If you don't make a conscious effort to meet up with that person, you can easily just get into work mode and not see them by accident for like 4 or 5 months to 6 months. You
Right.
really have to work at nurturing friendships
Right.
because everyone is busy, and you have to, you need to make space for people. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's something that I struggled with as well. Coming to a dry country, and
Yes.
if you don't have, well, sometimes social skills used to come from being able to have maybe a shot of tequila before
Right.
an event
Yeah.
or something like that. But when you kind of don't have that crutch on, and you kind of have to relearn how to make friends. Like, you're starting from the beginning almost, because there's not that little confidence boost. So
Absolutely. And that's something from the social aspect, 100%. I mean, you nailed it just with that. But there's also a little discomfort, I think, of alone time and hanging out with yourself, too, and maybe not having that little
mm,
crutch of just like, oh, I'll just have, a drink with dinner, a drink before bed, or, and those were things that were kind of part of my routine
uh-huh.
before I came out to Kuwait. So not only was it, I was, social life and you can go out to bars and restaurants and drink, but also I think some of it just finding something else to entertain yourself besides going out and doing those things is a little bit of a challenge that Kuwait.
I agree. What do you feel was your thing?
Well, it was funny because and I've talked about this a little bit before, but before I got to Kuwait, I wasn't feeling good in my body. I had been through some health things, some injuries that had escalated. I had, some arthritis and stuff that I was dealing with my body. So I wasn't working out very much. I wasn't
Mhm.
feeling very fit. I wasn't happy with how I looked. And I was still the person that people were coming to asking for health advice and
Yeah,
things, I just felt like shit in my
naturally.
body. Yeah. And I was doing a lot of work for my gym that kind of started to build into a little bit of resentment in a way, because when I walked in the doors there, it was like I couldn't go in just to move anymore. There were things to be done and people needed things,
Yeah.
and that was sort of draining too. And so when it was funny when I learned that Kuwait was a dry country and everything, I was really excited. I'm like, great, this is going to be really good for me. I can't just sit at home and sulk and drink and feel sorry for myself,
Yeah,
in the way
and
that I'm
everyone, when
feeling.
you
And
do finally announce that you're going, that's the first
Mhm.
people that people kind of zone in on. Like, oh, you won't be able to drink? Is that going to be,
It's the dress first, being a woman. They want to know if you're going to have to cover. And then it's a
That's the
dry
first thing
country.
they ask you as a woman?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They want
Really?
to know. Yep. They want to know if I'm going to have to cover or how I'm going to be treated
Oh,
and
okay.
things. And I tell people all the time, and I think it's shocking for them to hear that I never felt safer in Kuwait.
Yeah,
I would walk around streets there and feel a lot safer than walking around the streets of, my home state.
yeah.
So it is interesting, but it was funny. My first week out there. So I'm all excited. I'm on this, new adventure, and I'm going to get my health back together. And the first weekend there, we got invited to the embassy for a happy hour. So first weekend there, I got drunk and I thought, oh no, I've ruined it. This is it. But luckily, those invites, we just didn't take advantage of too often. And then for me, it was about in that first month that I was there, I lost about 10 pounds. And I think it was just from sleeping a full night and less drinking. So
Yeah, I feel like, when you do come out somewhere like this on your own, you kind of have full control of your schedule, and you can make routines. You can tailor your routine towards yourself, really, if you're smart. So if you did want to make
right.
changes like that, really as much obligation to go to brunches and go to baby showers and weddings and stuff like that, like, yeah,
Absolutely.
you
Yep.
kind of
And
have
that's
one,
something,
yeah,
yep. That's something that's, yeah, I think Kuwaitis, will, I don't want to say they envy in a way, but that is something because the family balance there is so strong and there are so many obligations and things to go to. I know that is something a lot of times my Kuwaiti friends, would often comment on, is just the freedom, I guess, that we have to say no. I think everybody has that freedom, and I think people could exercise that a little bit more of some of the
yeah,
obligations that they feel pressured to go to. I think that's just a skill that gets learned as you practice it.
yeah.
But definitely being out there and away from family, it's 100% you let go of some of those obligations and things that you particularly aren't always excited about.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like when you first move out of your parents' house, isn't it? You kind of get this
Right.
new opportunity to just be exactly and do exactly what you want to be and do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So what are some of your proudest achievements since you've been in Kuwait? Like, and that can be like personal things that you've done for yourself, or it could be professional. Just what are some of the things that you're most proud of that you've accomplished or experienced since you've been out there?
Oh, okay. I mean, definitely the building of the app and how well it's doing. I know we're all kind of in Corona quarantine right now,
Mm-hmm.
but ironically, this has been fantastic for online workout business. Things are really, really stepping up. Yeah, and it's always kind of felt like the universe has been on our side, and I've had a lot of challenges and the opportunity to stretch myself in a lot of different areas, not just photography, not just videography. Like I went into things like live streaming and managing people and training people now. So I've had a lot of opportunity to grow in like a professional sense. And I think for me, coming here was the best professional decision I've ever made. Just coming to like a market that is less saturated and having kind of an abundance of like different opportunities. That's kind of like professionally, but personally, I think we touched upon it earlier, just that growth in confidence and like self-reliance that comes with setting out on your own
Right.
and yeah, setting yourself up in a completely different place and
Right.
yeah, somehow not dying.
You're making it. You're doing it.
I made it, Mom.
Have there been any like low moments or anything that's been particularly difficult to deal with away from home, or have you felt, I guess, like, yeah, has there anything that's just kind of drained you since you've been there? Any low moments?
I think generally a small thing is if you have like a workaholic tendency or any kind of addictive personality at all, it's super, super easy to just fall into like a spiral of work.
Absolutely.
And just be in this kind of fight or flight, always stressed, being a bit of a knobhead to people, like highly strung. That's more of a general thing. But I think if we're talking about low moments, I think the main one that I can think of is Christmas Day. First year I was here, Christmas Day was pretty rough.
Yeah. Holidays, that can be a tough one. But I think last, was it, I don't know, what did you do this the Christmas before? It was the last Christmas that I was there. Because I know that was a hard time, for a lot of us. So I think expats do a pretty good job of reaching out to one another and, trying to connect with one another for those kinds of big holidays that we have back home. But I hope it gave you a good
Christmas period was great. Like, yeah, you're right. People do reach out. I didn't really tell you that party that you invited me to, I really, really needed that. Yeah.
I just have to laugh about it because the party ended with a bit of an argument. And I'm like, it's just like the holidays at home, like families fighting.
Like when I think back to that party though, that's not the bit that I remember,
That's good. That's good.
Although it was quite memorable, it's not the main.
It was memorable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That one always makes me laugh. I'm like, I did a good job. It was just like back home.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Tons of food.
Holiday times.
Yeah. Tons of food. I love that. I think hosting parties for people and cooking for food, because I can't cook for a small group of people. You can tell me 6 people are coming over and I'll cook for 30.
That's one of your joys.
Yeah, I love it.
Making food and sharing. But I remember that time you took me to Gia. You're like, these are all the options available. I enjoy just like making sure people are fed and fed healthy stuff as well,
Yeah.
I
love it. Yeah. It's so great. So what are, I guess, so the mindset and the skills we've kind of talked about, like adopting a little bit of patience and things like that, but anything that helps you, I guess, just stay focused on what your goals are out there and personal self, and making sure that you don't get sucked into that addictive, workaholic type mentality? Or is there anything in Kuwait that are sort of your survival skills?
Oh, I think stopping. Just for a sec. And like I say, you do sometimes fall into that workaholic mode and get yourself into high stress and sometimes feel a little bit down. But I think it's really important to just stop. And, I learned that from people like yourself and Reese. Like when I first got here, how lucky was I? Reese was my housemate. Reese is like a breathing expert, and he's all about stopping and doing all these little exercises. And really, there's that, and there's the whole like bringing your family up to show them, just really like being bigger picture and like, all right, actually, what did I want before I came here? I wanted to make photographs. I wanted to take videos. I wanted to do this. I wanted to work with these brands. I wanted to do a little bit of like art and animation and stuff. And then if you just like pull back for a second and look at everything that like you've done like over the last year, you're like, oh shit, I did all that. Like it's a big tick. I did it. And you just have to kind of, I don't know, not look yourself in the mirror, but kind of like just say to yourself like, oh, I'm doing it.
Right. I think one of the best things that they have, because I kind of felt the same way after a few years in the same role, and is in working in a startup as well. You know, we're all just trying to figure it out, and you don't necessarily get the feedback all the time of what's going well. You know, it's often like, what do we need to improve? What do we need to keep doing? And so you feel like you're putting out fires a lot. And sometimes you look back on something, you're like, Jesus, did anything go right? And clearly it has, because business is working and it's thriving. But one of the best things is to sit down and just, you know, kind of put together like almost a resume of what you've done over the last year and look at some of those projects and things and understand the effort and the work that you put towards it. I think, it can be really hard to sometimes recognize that, especially in ourselves.
And I'm super lucky to be in a business. Like, I feel like any business that I've worked in before this startup, the main problem, and I'm sure you've heard this before, the main problem is communication.
Oh, absolutely.
Being in this startup situation, when it's a very small team still, communication is just at the forefront. It's at the top, and just having chats and having like quite regular evaluation is super helpful.
That's awesome. I agree. So, all right, we've got a few minutes left here. Is there anything you wanted to teach us in the last few minutes? That could be anything related to, you do a lot with photography and videography, any takeaways for people, or is it maybe where they can just find the work that you've done?
Okay. Sorry, what a fantastic start to that. Okay. No, I think the main thing I've learned as a photographer and videographer is comparison is the thief of joy, but it's also the thief of growth. What I mean by that is when I first started making commercial video, I was trying to be like a lot of these trendy YouTubers and filmmakers that I was seeing online on Instagram every day on YouTube, and kind of trying to emulate what they were doing.
Right.
And I'd say like a year down the line, I wasn't 100% happy with what I was doing. So I luckily there was a point where we were like relaunching and rebranding, which really gave me a chance to take everything tackle everything one by one. And one conclusion that I did come to was that I looked at the equipment and tools that were available to me and made the best of those, rather than trying to, for example, drones are very popular now, and people kind of always almost expect it. There's like a pressure to deliver a certain style to people, but I think the best thing that I've learned is really look at what you have and make what you can from what you have, and that's going to be a million times better than anything that you would make if you were trying to copy someone else.
There are so many parallels to that outside of just the technology that you kind of found that through. That's just, oh my God, that's amazing. Absolutely. Of do the best with what you have. And that's where I think, especially in Kuwait, I think there is a lot of pressure to kind of keep up and get the new hot flashy thing, or that comparison syndrome is something that is just so real around the world. But I think the social media presence there is quite high, and I think it's definitely escalated. So I love that. You said the comparison is the thief of joy, but it's also the thief of growth. Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for coming on. It's always so good to chat. We used to have our little chats at B Cafe every once in a while, and always just felt like those were so uplifting and supportive to the work that we were doing. And anytime
the B Cafe ones were good, but my favorite ones were when we were walking as well. So we were like emotionally unburdening ourselves, but also moving.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, that's one as well. If chatting with friends, add movement.
Yes, I think that, go for a walk. Absolutely. I don't know about your creative process.
Anywhere as well.
Right. Yeah. And my creative process is always escalated when I'm moving. I think I almost always have to keep a notebook with me when I'm just kind of like messing around in the gym or going out for a walk or something, because ideas just definitely come to you, I think, when you're mobile. And Absolutely. Absolutely. But I've loved every chance I've had to work with you. You do an amazing job of making people feel comfortable. I'm someone who's quite self-conscious of videos and photos, and anytime working with you, it's just been such a blast and just hanging out with my friend. And I love the work and everything that came through out of that. So thank you.
Oh my
I'm
God.
so glad that seriously. Yeah, I know. I need to get back out there.
I miss you, girl.
Yeah, I miss you too. But people can find your work on the Life app, and that is available in the iTunes store. And where else might they find it?
Well, totally. And guys, if you did want to download it to help you work out at home during the Corona period, the Corona quarantine, it's actually free right now for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, just find it in the App Store. Just search Hot Life and you will see it right at the top.
Amazing.
I
love that you guys are doing that.
We're number 1 in Kuwait, by the way. Way!
Oh, hell yeah. Congrats. Awesome.
Oh my God, I got like all my plugs out at the end. But yeah, and guys, if any of you want to follow me on Instagram, it is Mulvey, which was actually my nickname that I was given when I got out here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's BU, so Boo and Mulvey, Mulvey.
What does BU mean? I don't think I know.
BU, so it's the actual word is Bo, which means son of. So people call me son of Mulvey, but everyone at work called me Boo Mulvey. I don't know why.
Got it. I love it. That's great. That's awesome. All right. Yes, definitely follow along and then get in some sweats with the Hot Life while you can.
Whew. Yes.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at The Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.